Welcome to App Stories, a weekly exploration of the world of apps. Today's show is brought to you by Warby Parker and Linode. I'm John Voorhees, and with me this week, of course, is none other than Federico Federici. Hi, Federico.
Hey, John. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing really well. You know, it's busy season for us. We're kind of cranking away, but it's been a lot of fun so far. And we have, I'll let it slip that we're recording this on the anniversary of Club Mac Stories, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, and the day that this episode is out will be Monday. iOS 12 will be out in just a few hours in theory.
Yep.
And so will be my review of iOS 12. It'll be
right.
mid-afternoon my time, so 4:30, 5:30 Italy time. I will publish the review that I've been working on since June on Mac Stories, and hopefully we won't run through the issues that we had last year in terms of too many people trying to read the review. I'm really happy with the way it sort of the final product came out. I've been working on this for the past 3 months, and despite the amount of work, I was able to cut the total volume of the review by 30%. So it's more compact than last year. It should be easier to read. It should have a friendlier, more approachable tone. And of course, there's a giant shortcuts chapter where you can read everything about system shortcuts and the Shortcuts app and what you can do with the new version of Workflow. So big day, big week, big couple of weeks, because we had the Apple event, we have iOS 12, iOS 12 app updates, new iPhones, and then will be Mojave time next week. We're busy.
Yeah, we really are. I got a question for you. Do you ever feel like you're just sitting around waiting for the rest of the world to wake up before you publish your review?
That day is always kind of strange in that I feel like there's people in Europe and there's people like in Asia or in Australia waiting for me, and they'll be like,
right,
can you tell me when you're going to publish the review? Because I need to coordinate with my schedule around your time. And there's also like people in the US are still sleeping. Like, so I try to, the 4:30, 5 p.m. tends to be like a decent time for everybody because it's afternoon in Europe. It's usually like 10 a.m. or something in New York,
right?
7 a.m. in California, and it's the evening in Australia. At least I think so. I think it's bad for Japan, but like I said, there's no perfect time zone to please everybody. And at least I found over the years that this time it's able to accommodate as many people as possible at the same time. But other people will just read the day after, and that's fine.
Yeah, no, it seems to work. And I mean, that's usually when we publish some of our bigger stuff, just when we want to maximize who can see it in a particular day. That's about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock my time is usually a great time to do it.
So I mentioned iOS 12 and iOS 12 app updates. And of course, the past weekend, Apple has been approving a bunch of app updates with support for iOS 12. And of course, we at Mac Stories, we've been busy trying and testing all of these app updates for the past couple of months, really, since developers were able to upload new versions to TestFlight. And I thought that this week and maybe even next week, we'll see, we should talk about some of our favorite app updates for iOS 12, some of the new features, some of the apps that we've been trying. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. But before we get to those, I want to mention a little tiny bit of follow-up from our last episode when we were talking about Twitter clients. And one of the ones that we mentioned is an Apple Watch app. And I called it Chirpy, but it's actually Chirp. And so Chirp is the Apple Watch app. And we'll put a link in the show notes so you can go find it if you want to try it out. Because it is pretty cool to be able to see your Twitter timeline right on your wrist.
Well, Chirpy is also a good name.
I know. Well, they should have talked to me first, but it's Chirp, okay?
Chirp.
All right. Well, why don't we dive into some of these apps? And I guess maybe I'll kick it off with the first one. How does that sound?
Sure. Yes, go for it.
Okay. So I want to talk about Carrot Weather a little bit because this is really extensive from the standpoint of Siri shortcuts. It's really kind of amazing what Brian Mueller has done here. You can already use Siri shortcuts to do things like use the Apple Weather app, but that just throws up kind of the standard view for the weather app. It works, it's fine, but it's pretty basic. With Carrot Weather, You can do that where you just get a very basic weather forecast for the day, or you could get an extended forecast. You could get a rain report. You can get weather maps. There's all sorts of other data. I mean, you can get the feels like temperatures, the highs and lows, the UV index, wind speeds. The list really just goes on and on and on. And so when you set up one of these, not only do you have all those different data points at your fingertips, when you set up a particular shortcut, you of course record your phrase, but then it has all of these custom slots that you can fill in with all these data points that I just mentioned. So when you say, what's the weather? It'll put up a customized view that looks like the Carrot Weather app, and it has all of those details in all those fields, and it will speak the weather to you, and then also have the data just written out there graphically so you can check it out. It's really one of the best implementations that I've seen. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really impressive, and I love like the just how much developer Brian Mueller was able to take advantage of the full spectrum of features in the Shortcuts API. So in addition to showing you like a custom interface, you can invoke these native shortcuts, these system shortcuts. You can invoke them in a bunch of places in iOS, and this is one of the areas of focus for my shortcuts chapter in the iOS 12 review, explaining all the places where you can access these shortcuts. You can search for a shortcut by name, and so you can type "check the weather" in the search bar in Spotlight,
Right.
and you will see the Carrot shortcut as a suggestion. You can get these shortcuts as predictive suggestions without having to search for them at all. So if you swipe down on the home screen, if you check the weather at specific times during the day, you will see the Carrot Weather icon. You can also invoke this shortcut with a custom Siri phrase, and I love that in addition to bringing up the custom visual snippet, there's also a spoken response by Siri.
Right.
So Siri can tell you a description provided by Carrot, but it can also show you. And finally, what you can do is if you have the new Shortcuts app, which will be the new workflow, you can import these native application shortcuts as actions. And so you can have a shortcut that, for example, at some point brings up the Carrot UI right within the Shortcuts app, right within what used to be called a workflow. And I love that it's now possible to sort of have the Carrot, this unique combination of the Carrot UI, of the Carrot personality, in so many different places in iOS 12. And I also love that there's a bunch of useful shortcuts, but there's also one that is basically useless, and it's called Interact with Siri or Interact with Carrot.
Oh,
basically,
right.
all you can do is basically receive evil responses from the Carrot AI through Siri. And so you'll get like responses like, Siri just poked my eye, or Siri told me that you're a stupid meatbag, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because it turns Siri into an extension for Carrot, which I really like.
Yeah, as you would expect, there's the Carrot personality throughout this, including the spoken Siri weather report that you mentioned. There'll be something in there that's a little snarky, which I always kind of like, and it's funny to hear Siri say it, and it gives it a little. It's not in the Carrot voice, but it is in the Siri voice, and that's kind of fun too. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Warby Parker, quality eyewear at a fraction of the usual price. Warby Parker was founded by 4 friends who believe that your glasses shouldn't cost as much as your iPhone. They've cut out the middleman so they can sell directly to you in-store and online. This means that Warby Parker are able to provide high-quality, good-looking prescription glasses at a much fairer price. And if you're thinking that buying glasses online might be difficult, Warby Parker makes it super easy with their free home try-on program. Order 5 pairs of glasses and try them on for 5 days with no obligation to buy. Shipping is also free and includes a prepaid return shipping label. And when you pick your favorite pair, they can even call your doctor if you're not sure what your prescription is. Warby Parker glasses start at just $95, including prescription lenses that all include anti-glare and anti-scratch coatings. And not only that, but for every pair you buy, Warby Parker gives a pair of glasses to someone in need. which is really terrific. I recently bought some Warby Parker glasses, and I absolutely love them. I did the home try-on. I went online. I picked a bunch of different pairs. I narrowed it down to 5, had them shipped to my house. They were there in just a matter of days. And then I took some selfies and did a little fashion show for my family. And I narrowed it down to the frames I wanted. It was incredibly easy. And then within days, I had the actual prescription glasses back in my hands, and I've been wearing them for weeks and absolutely love them. The quality is great, and they look fantastic. Listeners of the show can head over to warbyparker.com/appstories and order a free home try-on kit today. Once you've done that, you can check out the Warby Parker app. They've built an awesome home try-on companion that lets you take a quick video of you wearing all the frames that you can share with friends and family who can help you choose. And if you have an iPhone 10, you can use their brand new Find Your Fit feature. It uses the iPhone 10's True Depth camera to map and measure your facial features. Then it'll recommend around a dozen Warby Parker frames that are likely to fit your face the best. The process is seamless, and it only takes a few seconds. It's time to upgrade your glasses experience. Go to warbyparker.com/appstories to order your free home try-on kit today. Thanks so much to Warby Parker for supporting the show.
So my first pick is the next version of Overcast. So I'm not sure if Overcast 5 is already on the App Store. I know that Marco had a public beta last week, so I think enough Overcast, heavy users should already be aware of what is new in Overcast 5. If it's not on the App Store already, make sure to check in the next few hours or the next couple of days. Apple is just approving all of these apps. Overcast 5, the big feature is support for media shortcuts. So media shortcuts are a probably lesser known aspect of the shortcut framework for developers in iOS 12. What the media shortcuts allow you to do is essentially start playback of media content in the background. So just like a regular shortcut, like the one you just mentioned, can bring up the Carrot UI in Siri,
Right.
which means that the Carrot app is actually running in the background. With Overcast 5, you can use media shortcuts to start Overcast in the background. So you can invoke a shortcut to say resume playback of a specific playlist, or you can have a shortcut to start the latest episode of a specific show that you're subscribed to. In addition to shortcuts for media playback, so for playlists and for individual shows, you also have shortcuts for controlling Overcast itself. So Marco added shortcuts to, for example, turn on Smart Speed or turn off Voice Boost or navigate to the next chapter. And there's a bunch of these shortcuts that allow you to change the behavior of the Overcast audio effects and the navigation inside of an episode right within Siri with your voice. Or even better, you can make a widget with the Shortcuts app that just navigates to the next chapter in Overcast. As Overcast is playing in the background, you can just swipe over to the Today widget view. And I have a shortcut that when I tap it, it says, do you want to skip to the next chapter or go back to the previous one? And I just need to tap, and Overcast adjusts the audio accordingly to the shortcut, which is pretty awesome. The big limitation of media shortcuts, there's actually two of them. First one is if you want, you can invoke this shortcut on your HomePod. But unless the app supports AirPlay 2, the audio will come out from your iPhone speakers. And because Overcast 5 does not support AirPlay 2 yet, you can ask your HomePod to run a media shortcut for Overcast. But audio will not play natively on the HomePod, it'll play on your iPhone.
Okay. So if you have headphones connected to your iPhone, you could just be, have your AirPods in, walking around your house and ask your HomePod to skip to the next chapter, for example.
Yes, you can do that. Also, the second limitation, this is nothing to do with Marco. By design, media shortcuts are not what you expect in terms of Siri integration with third-party audio companies. It's not like you can replace the Apple Music integration in Siri with Spotify, and it's not like you can replace Apple Podcasts with Overcast. Media shortcuts need to be assigned on an individual basis. So you need to create a shortcut for every playlist that you want to control with Overcast.
Right.
You need to create a media shortcut. By create, I mean assigning a custom phrase with your voice. you need to create a shortcut for each show. And this is because it's not like a full-fledged SiriKit API for third-party podcasts and music apps. It's a different type of shortcut that instead of kicking off an action or showing you an interface, kicks off media playback.
Right.
But you still need to create custom phrases one by one yourself. That said, it's been amazing to be able to summon Overcast playback with my voice, and I really, really like it. It works amazingly well. In fact, of all the podcast apps that I tried this summer, I think I actually tried 4 of them with media shortcuts. Overcast 5 was the only one that worked correctly since the first beta, and it always worked. It's fast. The commands for Smart Speed and Voice Boost and chapters are amazing. The integration with the Shortcuts app is perfect. I really recommend it. As soon as you see Overcast 5 on the App Store, today or later this week, go get it because it's really, really, really good.
Yeah, really just about anything you can think of in terms of controlling podcast playback in Overcast is there and available as a Siri shortcut, which is, I mean, it's not just play, pause, skip, that sort of thing. It's, as you said, it's the special features like Smart Speed and even you can even recommend a podcast from with your voice. I mean, and Marco's really included every single one of those interactions that you could have when you're playing a podcast. I've got another one. It's pretty basic, but it's still I've found it handy, which is Ulysses, and Ulysses is the text editor that I use all day long when I'm writing for Mac Stories. And one of the things that I do, especially as the week wears on, is I switch back and forth between a couple of different groups that I keep. One group is the main Mac Stories group for anything that you see on macstories.net, and the other is for Club Mac Stories as we start putting together the newsletter, and I'm writing different sections of that. I'll, especially like starting Wednesday or Thursday, I'll be back and forth between those a lot during the day. And I've actually found it kind of nice to have a Siri shortcut where I can say, open Mac Stories, and it just opens up that group while I'm sitting there. I don't, maybe I'm grabbing something out of the refrigerator to eat, and as soon as I'm done having my lunch, I'm going to dig into the newsletter. I can say, open Club Mac Stories, and it will open that. So that's actually been pretty nice. There are a couple other ones I'll mention. You can open individual sheets. Sheets are really the equivalent of what most people would think of as documents in another text editor. And the groups that I was just talking about are more like folders. And I haven't really found a really compelling use for opening a sheet because I don't know, that really hasn't grabbed me for whatever reason. You can also open a new sheet, and that I have used a few times. If you just want to start a new document, it's a pretty easy way to do that. But that's really about it in terms of iOS 12 things in Ulysses. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Linode. With Linode, you'll have access to a suite of powerful hosting options with prices starting at just $5 a month. And you'll be up and running with your own virtual server in the Linode cloud in under a minute. Linode has hundreds of thousands of customers who are all serviced by their friendly 24/7 support team. You can email them, call them, or even chat over IRC in the Linode community. They know how important it is to get the help you want. And they have a suite of amazing guides and support documentation to give you a reference when you need it. Linode's intuitive control panel will allow you to deploy, boot, resize, snapshot, and clone your virtual servers in just a few clicks. And they feature two-factor authentication to keep you safe. Linode is great for tasks like hosting a large database, running a mail server, operating a VPN, running Docker containers, hosting a private Git server, and much, much more. Oh, and Linode, it's hiring right now. If you're interested in a job with Linode, just go to linode.com/careers. Their plans start at 1 gigabyte of RAM for only $5 per month, and they offer high memory plans starting with 16 gigabytes of RAM. As a listener of this show, you can sign up at linode.com/appstories, and you'll not only be supporting us, but you'll get $20 towards a Linode plan. On the 1 gigabyte RAM plan, that's 4 free months. And with a 7-day money-back guarantee, there's nothing to lose. So go to linode.com/appstories to learn more, sign up, and take advantage of that $20 credit. Or use the promo code AppStories2018 at checkout. Thanks again to Linode for supporting the show.
I also want to mention an app that doesn't have many Siri shortcuts integrations, but the ones that it has are excellent. So I mentioned Good Task before. It's a reminders client. It's the task
Right.
manager that I've been using this summer. The developer of Good Task added shortcut integration to be able to invoke any list from the app in Siri or in the Shortcuts app or in search. And what I mean by list is any list that you create in Good Task. It doesn't have to be an actual reminders list. It can be a
Okay.
custom smart list that you create with filters.
Oh, nice.
It can be displayed in Siri. So, for example, all my sub lists for the iOS 12 review, like review videos and review screenshots and review website problems, those I assigned a custom phrase and I added to Siri. So now I can invoke them from my iPhone if I need to quickly check, like, I don't know, articles that I'm supposed to edit within the next 2 days, because that's a filter that you can create in Good Task. Now I can bring up those items in Siri. And also a nice detail that I haven't seen many other developers implement. I think the only other example I've seen is the Daily Dictionary app that you're going to mention by Benjamin Mayo. You can actually use as a developer an official add to Siri button that is provided by Apple that has the official colors and the official Siri logo. I've only seen Daily Dictionary and Good Task use this official button. Daily Dictionary has a black version and Good Task has the white version. And I think they look really good and they just look official. Like, they're not plain text buttons that are kind of boring. I kind of wish the Shortcuts app actually used this button. Still, it's just a nice detail. What matters is the fact that you can, if you're a smart list person like I am, you can now assign all of your lists to Siri and bring them up with the Good Task UI. It's really, really good. I feel like we're just covering good stuff today, John. I guess that's the point of the show.
There is a lot of good stuff to cover.
Mm-hmm.
And, you mentioned Daily Dictionary by Benjamin Mayo, and that's the one I wanted to talk about next. It's a simple app that gives you a word a day and tells you what the definition is. And this is the kind of app where I feel like the Siri shortcut would slot in really nicely as part of a longer shortcut that you make in the Shortcuts app, right? And that maybe you get the weather and you have the news read to you, and then at the end you get your daily word. You can go to the app and see the daily word, and it's got a history of all the words that have been added there, and they're added by Benjamin, I assume.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And when you ask it, you can set up the Siri shortcut, and when you invoke it, you get, very much like Carrot, you get a custom UI that matches the UI of the app, and Siri reads you your word and what it means. So it's just a nice little way to expand your vocabulary. And I think I'm going to try to work this into a bigger shortcut at some point.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I've been putting together some custom shortcuts in the Shortcuts app that are comprised of. This is confusing because everything is called a shortcut.
I know. I was struggling with that a little bit myself.
Let's now that we're talking about this, let's get the terminology straight.
Okay.
iOS 12, there's system shortcuts that can become Siri shortcuts when they are suggested or when you assign a Siri phrase to them.
Okay.
Those are shortcuts by apps. Then there's the capital S Shortcuts app, which is where you create custom shortcuts. In the old days, it was the workflow app and you created workflows. Now it's called shortcuts and you create custom shortcuts. In a custom shortcut, you can use a native system shortcut as an action.
Yes.
So you can put a shortcut inside of a shortcut in the Shortcuts app.
Yes,
So-
and that's why I think it is handy to be precise about the language you use.
Yes.
And the difference between system shortcuts and custom shortcuts, because that is the clue as to where these things are coming from and how they can be used.
Yeah. So as I was saying, I've been putting together some custom shortcuts that are made of native app actions. So like, show me something from Carrot, then show me something from Daily Dictionary, then show me or do something in Overcast. Like, I'm not dealing with the URL schemes anymore. I'm not using the built-in shortcuts actions. I'm just using app-based stuff, which is something interesting that I want to explore in the future. My final pick, John. Now, I'm not sure if this app has already been approved or not. Because of the nature of the app, it's a JavaScript IDE. You use this to program in JavaScript. There's a chance that Apple maybe will reject a first version. I hope not, because
we've got some things built in this.
Yeah. So the app's name is Scriptable. I also mentioned this in previous shows, and I am going to cover exactly what I've built in Scriptable in an episode of App Stories Unplugged, coming for Club Mac Stories members tomorrow on Tuesday. We will release this episode with the making of for my iOS 12 review, and there will be details about Scriptable and how exactly I've been using this. To give you the short version, this is an application that is like Pythonista, but for JavaScript. So it's a way to program on your iPhone or iPad in JavaScript, but at the same time to take advantage of native system integrations. So there's what is called a bridge between JavaScript and, for example, the system clipboard. Or you can integrate JavaScript.
Or photos, right?
Photos.
The photos library.
Reminders, the calendar, Siri, Quick Look. All of these system features can be accessed and programmed in JavaScript. And it's just, let me tell you, just amazing. Like, imagine Pythonista but modernized for all the stuff that iOS 12 can do. So you can assign a custom Siri phrase to a JavaScript script, and you can run JavaScript. And in Siri, you will not see the code, of course. You will see a native UI. So because you can integrate Quick Look with Siri, you can create table views. Like an actual iOS developer, you can create your own custom interfaces. You can use JavaScript, for example. Let's say that you have a selection of photos that put you in a good mood. Like, I don't know, photos of your dog or photos of your family, of your kids. If you know how to program JavaScript in a way that a random photo from a folder full of photos is fetched, you could create a Siri shortcut that says, show me pictures of my kids, that rotates through these photos and just gives you a random one in Siri in full resolution based on JavaScript. I actually have a shortcut that says puppy pics, and it brings up photos of Zelda and Ginger. So the things you can do, like I've been with the help of your son, he was very kind. Finn was able to help us and to help me with JavaScript, because I'm really a novice when it comes to JS. I have scripts to interact with files and the document browser and the document picker. I can upload images to my CDN. I can tag images in files, which is actually impossible to do in Shortcuts. With the Shortcuts app, it doesn't have tagging support for files, which is incredible. I have shortcuts to save images from photos with the share sheet through Scriptable. So, like I said, imagine Pythonista, but for the modern age of iOS 12, with even more integrations with the system. And with this, now there's going to be people who say that Python is more accessible than JavaScript, and folks who say that JavaScript is more is cleaner than Python. I tend to prefer Python personally, but I think JavaScript is fine. Like once you understand all the parentheses and curly brackets, I think it's fine.
Right.
It's been really fun to play together with Scriptable. I don't know when the app will come out. It's very possible that you will not see it on the App Store. If it's live on the App Store, here's what you're going to do. You're going to find links in our show notes to download all of these apps. And if Scriptable is out, there will be a link to Scriptable. I will have an overview of Scriptable and my review of Scriptable on Mac Stories in the near future. I don't think I will be able to put one out this week because I've been working on my iOS 12 review and a bunch of other articles. And I feel like Scriptable really deserves the Pythonista treatment. I really want to give it proper evaluation time. I will have a Scriptable review on the site soon. But if it's not like tomorrow, please don't be upset because I need more time.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover there. I mean, we think about it. It's a little bit like taking what you did in the past with Pythonista and bringing it into an app like Workflow. Like, what if Pythonista was part of Workflow? It's really that the power of that is pretty remarkable. That you can marry those two things together, and it does some amazing things.
Yeah, and I cannot believe it's made by a single person. His name is Simon Stovring, and again, I'm gonna I always get these last names wrong. I'm sorry, but he's a genius, and this is clearly a product of love. Like, you can assign custom colors to your scripts. You can assign custom icons. You can choose from like 800 icons or something. And those
Wow.
icons are actually searchable. So you can. It's not like workflow
Oh,
where
nice.
you need. Yeah, you can actually search by name or by label, which is nice.
It's not like picking an emoji then, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, imagine. What if I told you that you could stick a search bar on top of a grid of icons and search? Wouldn't that be a crazy idea? So yeah, I've been doing a lot of automation in Scriptable. If it weren't for Scriptable, here's what I'm gonna say, and this will be my final comment. If I didn't have Scriptable, I wouldn't have been able to finish my iOS 12 review today.
Wow.
It helped me automate over 400 screenshots for the review. Without it, I would have been, because I was expecting iOS 12 on Wednesday, not today. So without Scriptable, it's very possible that I wouldn't have a review today. So thank you, Simon, and thank you, Scriptable. I hope you make it to the App Store very soon.
Yeah, I do too. Well, that's a great place to stop, Federico. It's been a great week, and it's great to have your review out and to have this podcast out, and you'll hear a lot more from us about all the apps that are coming out and supporting iOS 12, but also when it comes out, macOS Mojave. I'll be talking about some of those too as well in a future episode. That's it today, folks. Thanks again to our sponsors, Warby Parker and Linode, for making this episode possible. And as usual, you can find both of us over on MacStories.net and for the 3-year-old Club Mac Stories. And you can find Federico on Twitter. He's at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees, JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.